Hello, and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. I love this city, New York City. There is a Raphael Rosen, 5 p.m. on a Monday. What a trooper. Welcome to the show, Raphael.
Thanks for having me, B. So glad to be here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do love New York City. I've been there quite a few times. The season would be changing. You're going into the colder weather. We're starting to get into well, hopefully soon enough, the warmer weather. But I've been there in the cold and I've been there in the summer. So it's not a beautiful city. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We've got a lot to unpack, and I'm pretty excited to get into it. I think it's going to be quite a insightful conversation and what is real and raw, if you like. Before we get into that bit, though, I want to celebrate your successes and what you're all about, and we'll let you share the journey and how you became the co-founder CEO and co-founder, I should say, of Sentinel, which is, I'm going to let you explain this. I'm going to start with the bigger stuff first, and then I'll give it the simple, so then I'll hand it over to you. But it helps businesses lower their costs, essentially. But what you're really big on is reducing those emissions with financial products for efficiency and sustainability. You've got a background in finance, clean energy. You're passionate about designing solutions at the intersection of climate and capital. The way you explains it to me, it's very single-minded and focused in terms of you pay money to landlords to unlock billions of dollars in their, was it their portfolio? I don't know what I've written down there, but
In their portfolio, that's right.
yeah, in their portfolio. Tell us about this. Tell us about your business. Tell us about how you became a co-founder. Yeah, like tell us all, and then you've got
Yeah,
quite a bit to unpack with that. The way you answer the question
yeah,
is really
absolutely.
nice. Yeah, over to
Yeah.
you.
So what Sentinel does is we pay landlords millions of dollars every year. That's the core of it. So why do we pay landlords millions of dollars every year? What we're doing is unlocking billions of dollars, as you said, of wasted opportunity that's in their portfolio. And so some of you may be familiar with this problem, but in most leases and most buildings in the United States, as well as other parts of the world, are leased. In most leases, if a landlord invests in reducing the energy of their building, which is the part of buildings that I care about the most, the tenants will get all of the benefit. And so if I'm a landlord, I may want to do that, especially if it's cheap. But it's very hard to do that at scale. And so what Sentinel does through both the software and the finance solution that we have is unlock those billions of dollars of waste and overcome that split incentive between the landlord and the tenant so that both of them can split the savings instead. And as a result, we've unlocked for our customers more than $1 billion of total value, and more than 40 power plants worth of pollution have been eliminated. And that's what I care about.
Ooh, that's huge, isn't it? $1 billion, but 40, what did you say? 40.
40, yeah, gas power plant equivalents.
uh,
Yeah.
how much, like, how many like, what's the size of 40 power plants? Like, that would be, like, I wouldn't even know.
They're big. Yeah, they're big. Yeah, there's tens of thousands of them in the world. So we're in the right direction, but we have a long way to go.
Yeah, and do you have like a target? Like, do you have an end goal in terms of what you want to conquer at all, like with regards to the power plants? And then I guess the,
Yeah, I mean, all right. So my co-founder and I have been friends since kindergarten. So that
oh,
is a good way to
huge.
get a co-founder is to know them your whole life and trust them. And he was my one of my good friends in elementary school and high school, and then in college we were physics lab partners together. And so our goal has always been, to get to gigawatt scale, so gigaton level of emissions, which is 1,000 times larger than we are now.
Wow, wow. Did you guys talk about going into business in kindy or things like that? Like, at what point did you start
No,
talking about
not
going
at
into
that
business?
point. Maybe a little bit in high school, but mostly in college. We had long nights solving problem sets together, and it was more fun to daydream about what we might work on together.
That's like a business marriage, isn't it, really? Like the fact that you've been together that long in terms of friends and then you become business partners. That's it's quite an incredible fate or feat, I should say, isn't it? Like in terms
Yeah,
of,
thank you. He and I are both very proud of it. We've been now partners for 15 years. It takes a lot especially everything Sentinel's been through, all the ups and downs, for a partnership like that to last. So I'm incredibly grateful to work with him.
Yeah. And have you always been an entrepreneur? Like have you ever been in the corporate lands like world, or did you just like come out of college and that was it? You two decided like we're going to start this business now, or
Yeah, I was always drawn to much more entrepreneurial, smaller things. I'm not at all drawn to corporate things. Maybe later in life that'll appeal to me in some way, but no, always been entrepreneurial.
yeah, right. Tell us a bit about the background of the ups and downs. Like you start Sentinel, did you guys have any idea what like because and I'm gonna jump into the answer you gave to me when booking in for the
Please.
pod because I think it's very real, it's very raw, it's very true, and I just don't think we talk about it enough. But before I jump into that, did you have any expectations of how successful your business would be, that you would hit like this $1 billion? Had you set goals from the outset of what you intended to do? Like,
Yeah, we always had very big ambitions. We also had plenty of realism that it was more likely to fail than not. And that first year was really, really tough. It was back in 2010. And we, each put in $5,000 to get the company going. And yeah, we're working without any income for about a year, and we were about ready to throw in the towel when we finally signed our first customer. And then 2 weeks after that, our second customer, and 2 weeks after that, our third customer. And so then we were finally in a place we could start to see that future that had felt very, very far away after
yes.
a year of grinding without anything.
Yeah, I love the grind. I love hearing those stories because it's the classic like what do you call like you call it Death Valley or that you're in that messy middle.
Yeah, Valley of Death. Yeah.
Yeah, the Valley of Death, sorry, where you're just like, is this going to work? And then you start looking at, oh mate, I should get a job or like, but even though you're doing a job, but like just that, I think psychologically that mindset of not being paid, not paying yourself, it's really taxing on you, like in terms of
Yeah.
you're just working your butt off basically, and you're not seeing any return. You're like, what am I doing? And then
Yeah.
people around you like, it'll be fine, or it'll be fine, or and it's just like, no, no, you don't understand. This is my passion. This is my life. Did you ever have those moments where you were just like, oh, this is mentally dementing me in terms of the ability, like that, not the ability, but that you're just working, working, working.
Yeah. It's it's very, very difficult to be in the grind and trying to not lose hope, especially if you're starting out. So I had some experience with other entrepreneurial ventures before this, and sales and being turned down and rejected all the time is something that gets much, much easier the more it happens. But when your livelihood depends on it, and each loss feels like you're not sure where the next opportunity is going to come from, that's really tough.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this in a little bit more detail because when you booked into the pod, I always ask the question around what's one unique insight, lived experience in life, leadership, or business. And you said early on at Sentinel, everyone said we were successful and raising money was easy. But I let myself believe that instead of facing the truth. We hadn't found product market fit yet. Ego and wishful thinking led to hard lessons. To be ruthlessly honest on success. Self-love is honesty with yourself, your teammates, and investors. That is such an admirable response because you've called out a few things that, you've called out the fact that one, your ego and wishful thinking like got in the way by the sounds of things and you had to learn the hard way. And then you had to be ruthlessly honest with yourself in terms of that self-awareness to go, well, actually, what's going on on the inside? It's not what's going on the outside here. This is just me observing what you've written. And you've had to go inwards to go, like, self-love is what I'm needing to like focus on here for yourself, but also that, that the people that are a part of your business, not just your teammates and your investors, but probably family, friends, etc, because it's easy to kind of have that ego say to you, "Oh yeah, it's going to be easy. We're going to kill it." Like, and then like what you're doing in terms of that climate intersection of climate and capital, and reducing emissions and energy. There's a real purpose in that, right? And so you probably, by the sounds of things, I could be completely wrong here. comes to that product market fit, you probably went, hang on a second, what are we doing this for? What's the point and what's the purpose of all of this? Like, I don't know, have I got any of that kind of
Yeah, a
on?
lot of that that's spot on because when you start your entrepreneurial journey, as we talked about, you're filled with high hopes, and then those high hopes have to meet the market reality. And especially in that first year where all of your high hopes and all of your drive and all of your excitement just run headfirst into total indifference from the world, which is what almost every entrepreneur is going to meet with, is just
Totally
total
different.
indifference.
I love
Um,
that. I've never
and
heard that
you
before.
it's just this huge, huge letdown. So if you then come out of that and you start signing up customers and you start generating revenue and you start hiring a team and start expanding, when other people then come to you and say, "Oh wow, like look at your company, it's growing, it's adding people," and you can then raise money, and people say, "Oh wow, you just raised $3 million." Then they come to you and say, "You just raised $30 million. Like this is such a successful company." That contrast between people telling you you're doing amazing and you feeling like you were almost dead in the beginning and you weren't going to make it, that gives you this enormous, like that positive reinforcement has an enormous distorting effect on you, certainly on me, and I know for other people. And so you're so hungry for that external validation because you've received so little of it for so long that when it comes, it's very, very easy to get swept up in it. And to what I shared with you earlier, there's a part of me that it always didn't quite make sense, all this external validation. There were plenty of things people were looking at, but I looked at how hard it was to win each of the next deals. And even though we were winning deals, it was still really hard to win them. And that experience didn't match up to the descriptions I knew from other people who had raised lots of money and were talking to customers. Most of them actually had customers who were really excited to work with them. And I could tell that subtle difference. And it bothered me, but I was so eager to take in this outside validation of, wow, it's amazing. Look at you guys go. That I bought into that instead of trusting my inner voice, which said, you don't have it yet. Like, this isn't right. Like, you can win and you can build this business, but you don't have enough here to really take off the way everyone says you are and will.
And so when you didn't listen to it, did it like what happened? Like just like in terms of because I know when I don't listen to my intuition or listen to what's coming from within or my soul or whatever you want to call it, it's almost like things just get halted. Like it's just like things don't go the way I anticipated or I hoped. It's like it goes completely the opposite, or just things just don't flow essentially. Like they don't flow the way I they should. Or it's like later I'm like, "Ugh, I wish I had just listened to myself or listened to my intuition." What
Yeah.
happened to you? Like because you've
Yeah, so had I listened to our intuition, we would have way slowed down the hiring pace and way accelerated the product iteration pace. And instead, what we did is we said, "Oh, this is good enough. Let's just keep scaling it." And the capital kept coming for us to scale it. And so we grew quite large, it's a large team and a lot of revenue, but with this business model, it was still really, really hard to sell. And as my co-founder Brendan puts it so well, as soon as the pandemic came in 2020, so 10 years into the company, the brittleness of that business model, the difficulty of how hard it was to sell that deal suddenly appeared. And there was no escaping it because our market, which was commercial buildings, went into a massive
yeah.
free fall because everyone was working from home. And our business model also involved flying engineers around the United States to go do work. And we couldn't fly anyone anywhere. We weren't allowed to send people into buildings anywhere. And our customers were in a state of shock. And they're still economically probably just hit the bottom now, 5 years later, of where they are. And so our customer base just got wiped out, and we tried as long as possible to keep the company going in the way that it had, but there was no way because the business model required this huge amount of effort to always be put into it to win the next deal. And when the market shifted, we were so far from having had that great product market fit that it was way too hard to shift it. There was nothing to shift into. So we had to completely restructure the company, which was awful in so many ways, and basically start over as a company entirely to do what had we done the first time of have a small team, iterate on the product frequently, would have been, what that voice in my head said 10 years ago now. Had we listened to that, we would have saved
Yeah,
ourselves
it's really
five
interesting.
years.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like because we have this tendency when, and I know this, when things are getting bigger, you put more people at it. Like you put more people on it, you get like the team gets bigger. But like I think it's scientifically proven that the more people you put on a project to solve a problem, you don't get any more efficient, you don't get any more productive. You actually slow things down. And so, when you think about COVID and what's happened with COVID and like the way the world is now, like it is more around that adaptable, kind of more focused, smaller teams, smaller like and I use the word smaller not from a financial sense, but like just that ability to be able to pivot and shift and adapt because everything's constantly changing. That's that formless piece for me. We're 1 minute we're one form, and then we're reshaping, and then we're going again, right? And it is
Yeah.
continuous. I don't know about you, but it feels continuous to me. Like you think you've got this form, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, here we go again. It's shifting, it's remolding, it's reshaping. So how do you do that in a way that is sustainable for growth and allows you to shift as the market shifts, as the consumer shifts, or in your instance, like with the commercial part of the business, for example, shifts so that you can continuously grow and adapt. And I think that a lot of people and a lot of businesses are just grasping and getting their heads around that in terms of, oh, this is now the model. This model isn't going to go back to the way it was. It's just not. And so as much as it's probably been a hard pill to swallow for you guys, it's almost like you're one step ahead now because you're like, no, this is how, it sounds like you're like, this is how we're doing it going forward. We cannot go back to that
Yeah.
model. Is that kind of like what's happened to you guys?
100%. Yeah. And your formless name resonates a lot. And I think for any good organization, not just business, any organization, your mission is why you exist. And your vision of how you want to get there, that can be flexible, but like where you want to go, like your vision is your way to get there. Like your mission always guides you. And what you do to get there could be a million different paths. And I think once you start trying to scale up one particular path, you get locked into that path. And one should avoid as much as possible, as long as possible, ever locking into that path because the ability to be agile, to borrow from software development, like, to be agile and to be able to not know exactly what the result of what you're going to build is, but just to know you're going to go fast and you're going to learn something quickly. That's such an enormous advantage over any other approach. Yeah, that I wouldn't build companies any other way now other than we know what our mission is. We think we have a hypothesis of how to get there. We're going to test that hypothesis as fast as possible, learn from it, and then do the next version. And we do that really on a daily basis at Sentinel, and it's incredibly fun and incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, because it's different, right? It's like it's a constant, like you're constantly creative, you're innovative. It's that fresh perspective. So, tell me a little bit about that because you hit rock bottom in terms of you and your business partner. Like it sounds like you completely had to 720 your business model in terms of just flip it on its head, but like not just a
Yeah.
360, a 720. And then you're like, did you guys just sit together and go, what the actual, and then kind of go, where do we go from here? Or did you both go, all right, like 10 years on, we knew this was, I mean, you said intuitively, you knew that like something was kind of, within you telling you, be careful sort of thing. Like this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, so what, like, how did you start to rebuild or reshape, if you like?
Yeah, much more slowly than I would have liked, or that my co-founder would have liked. I mean, here we are 5 years after, the business imploded and nearly died, and we had to restructure it. And that process, because it was our first time really going through, like, seeing not many people go through an experience where you spend 10 years building something and you watch it collapse in a matter of months. It was our first time going through that, and so we were very slow, especially me, to admit that we just had to change significantly.
Yes, so far.
So that process really took years. And it was only because of the trust that my co-founder and I had from being through so much stuff. And yeah, we built up plenty of criticisms of each other that we then had to spend time working through. And yeah, today, after years of working through it, like we have more fun than ever just thinking about what did we learn today? What are we going to do tomorrow? And the team is just incredible team to get to work with. And being a small team, we go so much faster, just like in the early days of the company. And we now have the wisdom to always listen to that voice in our head that says, all right, this is what's actually working, but this part isn't working yet. Yeah. And so
Such
we don't
a
ever invest ahead of it.
Yeah, it's such relationship. Like you've been married for 10 years, almost like you and your business partner. And then you have this like almost like this breakdown or this kind of like identity crisis, if you like. And then you're like,
Yeah.
identity crisis in business, identity crisis as a relationship, and then you have to work through it. But like the other part of this is, and you know, in COVID for me, same sort of thing in terms of in the business I was in, you know, we were at the top of our game at the you know start of COVID, and like when everyone packed their bags and went home from work,
Mhm.
and we all got sent home, and like we're going to just have to work from home for a bit. Like yeah, see everybody in 4 weeks. 2 years later, Melbourne was the longest city in the world. It had the longest lockdown in the world. Can you believe it? It was wild. But I questioned for you is I found it so much harder to scale down than scale up in terms of psychologically. Because when you're scaling up, everything's awesome. Like it's just getting better and better and better. Like you say, ego's inflated, everything's quite amazing. Sure, you have stuff that happens where you're like, oh, this is kind of like stressful or but it's a bit of a wild ride. And then when you're scaling down and you're just seeing the millions drop off like that, and then you're like, I'm gonna have to make redundancies and then I'm gonna have to do this, and then your own self psychologically is just going, what the actual like, what's your view? Like, because then you've got to go. Then you're almost going up here, hit to rock bottom to go again. Like it's hard work. Like skate, like that whole yeah.
Yeah, it's hard work. It's also often very boring work. Like the interpersonal stuff aside, which is very painful. Like it's very boring work to decommission whole softwares, whole like programs, registry, like a million things. It's very, very tedious. Um, the psychological part is the hardest part. To be humble enough to say I failed in this way. What do I do with that now? That's really, really hard, and a lot of people will do anything to avoid facing that question. Yeah, but I think once you face it, it can be very, very clarifying and very enlivening to say, like, I started this organization to accomplish this mission. Is there still a way I see to get to that mission? Okay, I still see a way. I'm gonna go figure out how to go that way, and that's now motivating. And it's much easier to go down that path, even though, it's much less glamorous and there's much less hype around it. Um, because you're now no longer distracted by the hype. You no longer have to like use that mental energy that if there were people saying, "Oh, you're so amazing, you're so awesome," you'd have to exert a lot of mental energy to keep that away and not believe it and only believe the facts that the market is giving you. But if you don't have that distraction and you just focus, like, okay, what are the facts the market's giving me? What does that say about the path I need to be on? And then you just go on that path, have as much fun, make it as real as possible, and don't care what other people think. And if you do it that way, it's great. Like I have more fun now than probably ever had professionally, on most days.
Yeah, and what's the fun then? Tell us a little bit about that because you look like when you're saying all of that, the fail bit. Do you think you failed? Like, I mean, I know that we fail. It's called fail fast, but your business is still alive. Your business sounds like it's
Yeah, no, the
on its
business
way
is
up.
thriving.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fail in the sense of think trying to scale too quickly, fail in the sense of we
yeah,
hired
okay.
lots of great people and we like it was always my mental model that whenever you hire someone, you'll never let them go unless they're underperforming. And like that was a failure. Like that model didn't work. Because I didn't listen to the voice in my head. I instead listened to all the voices that said, "Oh, this is great, go scale it." So that's certainly a failure, and I think it's also, yeah, I don't think a failure is a bad thing at all, but it is
No.
a failure learned slowly to have tried to scale one model that instead we should have kept iterating much more quickly to find, right now we have a way better model in terms of how we serve customers and deliver value that's way more profitable for us, way more profitable for customers, way more scalable. And I think a year from now, we're going to have a model that's 10 times better in all those dimensions than the one we have today. And that's only because we're not married to the model. We're just married to the mission.
I love that. Married to the mission, married to the purpose. It's so cool. Like it's just like I think that's what business is all about though. These like it's like this is the new world order for me. This is the new model. When you're married to the mission or the purpose, it can change along the way, right? Like, but as long as you've got
Yeah,
that North Star that's over there, you can see it. Nobody else
yeah,
might be able to see it, but you can see it. I think there's
yeah,
something magical in that in terms of exactly what you were saying, like, because you're not distracted by what everyone else is saying, because you're like, no, 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 I've got this. I know where this is heading. Sometimes
yeah.
you don't. Some days you're like, where is this all going? But like, it's funny how once you've got that locked and loaded in terms of the mission or the North Star or the purpose, whatever you want to call it, isn't it funny, don't you think, how things just start to kind of like if you allow it to and the way you're iterating, it almost just like it just starts to seem to like fit and work towards that. Like I don't know, like there's something magical in that. Like do you see that at all? Like in terms of just some
Oh,
like
all the time. Yeah. Oh, all the time. Yeah. Once you, I think it's a Goethe quote of, once you commit to something, then it starts to become real. Yeah. But I see that all the time. And it's something I think people who are tepid about becoming entrepreneurs always feel like, well, like, I'm not sure if it'll work out. Like, how do I know? And the answer I always give is you have no idea if it's going to work until you actually start committing for real to making it happen. That doesn't mean you have to, give up everything you're doing, but you have to actually commit time to doing things that scare you and doing things that are new to you and doing things that are novel. And once you start doing things that are novel, then amazing things start to happen, both in the real world and in your own mind. And you start to see, oh yeah, I can't. This is a crazy vision, but like actually, we're already at this step, and I never thought we'd get to that step, but we're here. And all the rest of the 5,000 steps don't seem so daunting
and
anymore.
it's the novel bit, the novel, because novel is so important, right? Those novel experiences because it's doing things differently. It's that whole innovative, creative piece, right? Is that the fun bit for you? Like in terms of when you say like watching your face before and you said like it's the most fun you've had in your, entrepreneurial career, if you like, what you're doing now. Like what lights you up? What illuminates you?
Yeah,
So you're like,
learning anything. Yeah, learning anything. And that's part of why iterating quickly is so much more fun as opposed to like, I've learned how to build organizations and build teams and build enormously complex, way too complex, but still functional processes that get things done. And I like that when I was learning it. Now I enjoy playing with AI and learning from that. Now I enjoy different types of sales interactions. Now I enjoy iterating on storytelling. Now I enjoy having back and forth with different members of the team every day. And then I share an idea and they share a different idea and that gives me a new idea. And like that
yeah.
rate of learning, that's just amazing. And that's what human minds can uniquely do. So yeah, that learning is what lights me up.
I love that. And tell me a little bit about the market. Let's pivot again for a minute because obviously COVID
Yeah.
changed the world and we're not going
Yeah.
backwards, we're only going forwards. But if given that you're in the commercialization, like paying landlord space, like what are you
Yeah.
seeing? What are you seeing from a change and what are you seeing that's going to continue to change in the market you're in?
Yeah, we're in a very strange market because we care about reducing energy. And everyone in commercial real estate, other than cold storage facilities and industrial like manufacturing plants, like they really don't care about energy. It's
Yeah,
way too low a cost center, or it's something that isn't even in their P&L. It's really a tenant cost. Um, but that's all that we care about. So we have to go to a market that really doesn't care about
yeah,
the thing that we care about and get them to take action on it. And that makes what we do very, very difficult. And it's part of why there's such a big opportunity. And so when I look at the market, I tend to think about different verticals in commercial real estate. So there's medical office buildings and life science and multifamily and industrial and different types of retail. So we break the market up into those segments based on the types of assets that owners own. And those segments all go through their own cycle based on interest rates and tenant demand and all of those things. So they're always fluctuating. Um, yeah, as far as how we approach it, the only universal thing we can do is give people more money. And so that's the simple pitch is we can give you millions of dollars every year. We already do it with dozens of landlords around the country. How does it work? Well, it's a little complicated, so we'll take a few minutes to explain.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
Yeah,
It's always like, I've worked in like on like sustainability in a completely different capacity to what you're doing. But it's always a secondary thought, like, when it comes to whether it's consumer or businesses or whatever, it's like, yeah, I don't really want to know about that. Like people say that, they're around sustainability, they're around this and that, but when push comes to shove, it's
yeah,
like show me the money sort of thing, right? So it's quite
yeah,
an interesting, kind of fit that you've got going on there. And yet, again, COVID, Mother Nature, did they shut us, like whether you call me woo-woo or not, was the world shut down because it was like time out, like the world's getting sicker, like let's just time out because, pollution, everything. And then you kind of go, like we need it. We need to have these conversations and exactly what you're doing because it's part of building a better world, a better planet, a better place, right, as well. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting that we're still so, what's the word, wedded to money and all of those sorts of things. And of course, like we need that, but it's just there's more to what's going on in the world. So I love that you're really focused on that. But knowing at the end of the day what is going to sell to your market and being crystal clear with them, which is back to that whole product market fit. I've got a couple more questions for you. What would you say to anyone who has almost like is killing it in their business, like they're an entrepreneur, they're doing super successful, but given the experiences you and your business partner have had, what would be one piece of advice you would say to them when they're like on the top of their game and they're just absolutely killing it? Like, what would be one piece of advice you would say to them to ensure that they continue to sense check themselves and their business?
yeah. I think it would depend on their own experiences. If they had failed many times before, I don't know that I'd have much advice for them. But if they'd never failed, my advice would be to get a coach. And just like any athlete who's performing well, and is winning all their regional meets and seems to be doing well, you don't really know how high you can go until you work with someone who's seen, hundreds of other athletes and see how high you can go. So my advice that I wish I had gotten and wish I had, if I did get, wish I had listened to, would be to get a coach and get someone who can really help you see what you know, see what you don't know, and get you to the next level. And rather than, just rest on your laurels and think it'll be great forever, because odds are it won't be. And even if it would be, why not just get way better at what you do?
Yeah, I love that. It's that fresh objective perspective, right? Like having somebody coming on in and I've always had coach, in terms of just that ability to call you on your shit basically as well, like call you out on things when you're like and you kind of like sometimes when I've had that, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, oh, that hurt. Like that hit hard. And then you think about it later,
Yeah,
you come back, but also the ability to because it's lonely. It can be lonely when you're in it and you're scaling and or you're descaling and you're kind of working out where am I going next. It's like if it's when you're in your head, sometimes you need to get out of your own head and you need someone to help you get out of your
yeah.
head to give you those fresh perspectives. And then lastly, what's the I won't ask what the 5-year plan is for Sentinel, but like, what's your big next big move with regards to or next big play or yeah, what's your next big percent?
Yeah. So we've worked in over 2,200 buildings at this
Wow,
point. And our focus is going to continue to be to expand, into the tens of thousands and eventually hundreds of thousands of buildings. There's a million side businesses that I'm always excited to try and are so tempting and distracting. But we are very, very close to just having a machine that works at scale that actually gets projects done and reduces emissions in buildings
amazing.
super profitably for landlords. And I don't want to take my eye off that prize. So we're focused over the next 5 years of just building and building all the software and all the technology we do to make that so much easier for us and for our landlord customers.
Incredible. I love your discipline, Raphael. Like just that whole like just no distractions. Like it's like you've just gone no, that's it. Like just staying on point, that high performing, like no, like just being very clear on, it's back to the mission, isn't it? Like once you like you say, it's back to that mission and anything that gets in the way, it's like not required at this point in time, maybe later down the track. I get the feeling though
Yeah.
that you'll have other businesses at some point by the sounds of things, like especially when you're talking about all these different, yeah, it's like, yeah, all those novel.
Yeah.
Mm.
Your comment just made me think of one last thing I'll add, which is certainly when you start a business, oftentimes, you know, you are, working so hard because you want to get to that mission. You're trying so hard and it drives you in a good way, but it's also grinding you and wearing you down. And at a certain point, I think for me, things flipped and, the mission, instead of just making me work so hard for it, which is, I was happy to do. Suddenly, the fulfillment of the mission just started this virtuous cycle where because I cared so much about it, I started taking care of myself better and better, and that made it more easy and more gratifying to get to the mission, and that made me take care of myself better and there's a virtuous cycle where instead of sacrificing yourself for the mission, you and your mission are in harmony together trying to get to that, and
Oh,
that
I love
is an
that.
amazing place to be. Yeah.
That's so beautiful because you know what's funny? I was going to actually ask you what fills your cup up because, like, as an entrepreneur, like you are, you're working, like you're surviving, you're thriving, you're surviving, you're thriving, got everything going on, and then you just nailed it in terms of, like, you got to start, you got to look after yourself. You've got to make sure that you're healthy because you are the business at the end of the day, aren't you? Like, you are the business. The business is you. If you're not great, if you're not healthy, mind, body, soul, how can the business be healthy? Because it's a system, it's a human system. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
a
100%.
biology. Yeah, we could keep talking. We could keep talking about all of this. Raphael, how do we find out more about you and your profound insights as well as about your business?
Certainly around about me. I don't know what profound insights I have, but certainly around me. Sentinelre.com is our website. So CENTINELRE.com. And I also have a personal website, which is Raphael, RAPHAELC Rosen, ROSEN.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn too.
Thank you so much. It's been a
Yeah.
real joy talking to you. I do, like I said, New York. What can I say? Always talking to great people from all around the world, but there's always like favorite cities and places. So thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat. It's always a good reminder to check our egos and also, get back to what's important. And I loved having this conversation with you. So,
Yeah.
hey,
I appreciate your wonderful questions. Thank you.
hey, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. I'll let you get back to your evening and my starting my day.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.